in a Mujra dance parlor many years ago. They recalled the night vividly. The pimp with a red kerchief around his neck who negotiated with them on the curbside under the bridge, the walk up to the room number 88 on the second floor of a building which smelled of urine, the green windows which shielded its inhabitants from any prying eyes on the bridge that heaved with traffic just a few feet away, and a woman called Chandni, draped in a sequined nylon sari, who gyrated under 4 chandeliers and leaned forward so far under my father's nose that he bursts into giggles every time he describes the moment. But, like in most neighborhoods in Bombay, daylight masked what went on after hours. During the day, the area under the Kennedy Bridge was like any other crowded street, throbbing with people hawking their wares of hurrying along. Across the street from the whorehouses stood an old stone convent called Queen Mary School. Next to it was a row of auto parts stores. And at the end of the road, deep inside a residential colony called Congress House, lived a great musician. It was 5 in the evening when my mother and I got there. We parked along the curb and walked past the storefronts displaying loops and spanners to get to the grey disconsolate building. There was no lift, so we trudged up the stairs to a tiny apartment on the 3rd floor. A family of 3 lived on one side of the kitchen. The music teacher lived on the other side as a paying guest, in a room with pale pistachio-colored walls. Her solitary companion in this room was her mother, whom she called I. My teacher-to-be was waiting for us with a cherubic smile. She was about 5 feet tall and was clad in a white sari starched crisp. Her black hair was liberally oiled. I was delighted to know that her tiny bun was a ponytail in disguise. She was remarkably youthful for a 50-year-old, which I later learned she firmly attributed to never having married. Sequestered in her tiny apartment with her 2 gleaming tanpuras that stood against the wall, she seemed oblivious to the men who loitered below her window next to the brothels, spitting beetle juice on the filthy walls of the buildings that housed their fantasies. It was like wading through a dirty pond to get to a beautiful lotus in the center. The walls of her room were bare, except for 3 portraits. There was a Technicolor Ganesh, torn off an old pharmaceutical company calendar. Next to it, a portrait of her teacher, the legendary Kesarbai Kerkar, head covered with a white sari, hair parted on the side, and a string of pearls around her neck. On the adjoining wall was a faded sepia photograph of Dhondutai's parents soon after they were married. Her father, a stiff Brahmin in a coat and dhoti, sitting upright with his knees apart, and her mother, a frail, beautiful woman in a 9-yard sari pulled tightly around her shoulders, sitting pigeon-toed, her feet pointing towards each other, acutely self-conscious. My attention was drawn to a dollhouse-like altar tucked away in a corner of the room. Inside was the entire cast of the Hindu pantheon. Tiny silver and brass idols of baby Krishna, Ganesh, Saraswati, Lakshmi, a couple of silver coins, and a picture of an almost naked holy man sitting in meditation. The gods had been polished and decorated with a touch of kumkum. In front of each lay a sprinkling of fresh jasmine flowers whose fragrance lingered faintly. On top of the temple flickered an orange bulb fashioned to simulate a live flame. It instantly amused me. As I learnt later, the room was a semblance of another home, her ancestral bungalow in Kolhapur, the town she had left behind, where temple chimes wafted in with the evening breeze and jasmine grew in abundance.